Welcome back. When you have fear of things that can go wrong, I guess a lot of that is also worry. And, it's easy to say don't worry about things. I mean, heck, there's been songs, right? Don't worry, be happy. I'm pretty sure everybody's heard of that one. And, Glen Thiessen joins us from Transition Planning, and Glen really helps clients navigate major changes. But a lot of those changes come with additional personal risk, well, both personal and financial. First, welcome back, Glen. How are you, buddy?
Thank you very much. It's great to be back from Hawaii. It's just...
Got to throw that in, don't you?
Oh, man. I just miss that so much.
Where'd you go? Which island?
Maui.
Nice.
Yes. The Manakai. 8th floor, right on the beach. Look down the beach, 2 miles. Oh, just awesome.
I know the Manakai.
You do?
I do. You're right by the Star Mart down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's very cool. It's a great spot. Well, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to the studio. So there's a lot to do with risk, and we've been talking about risk for quite a while now. And I think people, and you can tell me better than I can say it, but when you have to consider risk, some people just kind of get frozen, don't they?
Right. Well, there's so many different aspects of risk. Okay, so first, figure out where you're at in the phase of life. Let's say, for example, if you're in a career right now, what are the risks of a career, right? You might not make enough money. So if not, then you need to maybe either supplement that or look for a different career. There might be gaps in your benefit package. In other words, risks that are not covered by the employer. You might not be the indispensable employee if you're not producing like the employer's, if you're not meeting or exceeding your employer's expectations and being that indispensable employee, it's, your job might be at risk. You might be the first out the door.
So much harder to measure now.
Yeah.
Because it's not done just hourly like it used to. You don't punch a clock. I mean, there's so many ways to monitor productivity.
Right. Ideas and ways to save the company money, make the company more money. There are so many different ways that you want to be outperforming the other people that you're working with so that you are the indispensable employee. Even with that being the case, though, there's no guarantees that the employer is going to stay in business. You could still get laid off down the road. Those are risks. A risk is going through what we were talking earlier about college and all the money that could be spent on college and find out that you've chosen the wrong career. It's not matching up with your natural abilities, right? And so choosing the wrong career is a risk. So that's the career. Now, let's say, your employer provides disability benefits. So that's great because if you get sick and it's a long-term illness, then somebody's going to give you a paycheck so you can continue paying your bills. But if that's not provided, you're on your own. Your paycheck is what allows you to live your lifestyle, fulfill your future dreams. It's your job. Basically, you're exchanging your talents and ability and time for a paycheck, which you then exchange for whatever else you're doing in your life. If that paycheck stops coming in because you're not able to go to work because you're either sick or hurt, who is going to give you a paycheck, right? So it makes sense to ensure your ability to have an income. And that's your economic value. And if you have a family that's depending on that economic value, if the Mack truck hits you but you survive, disability is living death, right? But if you don't survive, well, that's, a situation where you still need to maybe replace your income for people who were depending on that income. If you're single, it doesn't matter as much, but the idea is, again, what have you left behind in terms of liabilities and so forth?
Well, so, I think you make an extremely interesting point when you talk about career risk, because most people assume, fairly, the chances are slim, most people assume that Monday they'll go to work and Tuesday they'll go to work. Especially now that the craziness of all the layoffs has kind of come and gone of the big recession. Right. And in Seattle things seem to be pretty strong. Mm-hmm. So people tend to assume that, but really there is, and I guess you could always try to put a percentage to it, right? I mean, there's a 5% or 10% or 1% chance that maybe it won't work out, and that's really something people need to think about.
Right. It's an interesting concept, too, is as you go through your life, remember, your life is kind of, 90 years, let's say. So the first 24 is, education and getting ready for a career. Then you've got your career. Then you've got it during that short period of time till age 60 or, 55 to 65, basically. you're going to be working to try to not only survive economically during that period, but store up enough money like the squirrels and the ants do until
Squirrels and ants store money?
Well,
Supplies. Nuts.
Supplies.
Grass.
What do ants?
They look
Never mind.
for the future. They prepare for the future. So
we can learn a lot from squirrels and ants.
You better believe it. So the concept is, for that segment of life where you don't know how long you're going to survive after you retire, right? It's a change in career. Now you're no longer, if you're working for somebody else is telling you what to do, when to do it, how to do it. When you retire, now you are in control of your time. But what do you want to do with that for that last segment of your life? And that's basically where, legacy, how do you want to be remembered, okay? So you've got these different segments of life.
It's funny that you bring that up, too, because I remember there was a seminar I used to teach, mortgage planning with investments. Yeah. And people used to say, well, I want to golf. And we would say, well, that's going to last 4 hours, maybe 3 or 4 times a week. What are you going to do with the rest of your time?
Right.
I mean, you're not golfing 9 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right. So that's the concept of changing a career. It's a new type of career. What do you like to do? And by the way, if people love what they're doing, why retire, right? I mean, if they really enjoy, whatever it is, continue doing it, right? And nobody's forcing you to retire. But if you hate what you're doing and you can't wait to get out of it, well, find something else that you can be more productive and enjoy life at the same time. Quality of life, does make a difference.
And that's almost a risk of just being content, isn't it? Just going through the motions and not meeting with somebody, in your role of going, what do you really want? I mean, being that sounding board, almost like, like a life coach that I think is more and more important as we get more and more impacted by different messages every single day.
Yes. And those messages are varied and very powerful. So once we get past the career phase, though, then we want to take a look at the longevity risk. Okay, how long will you live? Who's to say? It depends a lot on your life, your lifestyle, basically, and your family history as to how long you might live. So not, basically outliving your resources is really what Heather was referring to earlier, right? The fear of running out of money, not having enough to support your lifestyle throughout retirement. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting, though. Lifestyle includes a lot of different things. Like, for example, a lot of people don't think about obsolescence risk, for example. Things are going to wear out and break down, right? You've got to replace your appliances, your car every so often, right? Even your roof, your windows in your house. Those are major, major things that are going to have to be maintained as time goes by, whether you're in your career of working or after your career of working is over and your retirement. So basically what's going to happen to the cost of those things, right? There's all of those major things that will have to be done will be increasing in cost. Some of those items actually become more sophisticated as time goes by. So you've got the technology risk, right? You mentioned that a couple weeks ago, well, whenever we were talking last, not realizing the increasing cost of greater efficiency. It's when you look at the inventions of the 19th century, the 20th century, and where we're heading in the future, and the new bills that we have now that you didn't have either 5, 10, 15 years ago, what difference is that going to make 10, 15 years, 20, 30 years into the future in your life as you're now retired?
That's huge, because I don't think people consider their cell phone a lifestyle risk to their retirement.
Right. But
it's just, I mean, who do you have? You just something you do.
You assume that everybody's got a cell phone number.
Right. Well, and you have to,
and the cell phones themselves do so much more than they did when they first came out. So it's kind of like you have to have the newest. And how many people have a flat screen TV because they just can't stand the big box? It took up so much room in there. And the speakers.
And then you got to pay the extra $15 a month for the HD box.
Exactly.
I hate that charge every month.
Yeah. So the concept to think about is there are not software programs that build these different things in. You just have to intuitively think about what's going on in your life now that will also still go on after you retire, and build those factors into your plan, because otherwise you're not going to have enough resources to take care of those things as they happen in the future.
We're here with Glen Thiessen with Transition Planning, and Glen, when most people think lifestyle risk, they're probably not thinking about the financial lifestyle. You think, oh, I drive too fast, or, I smoke cigarettes, or whatever it may be.
Right.
People don't think, well, I actually have a lifestyle risk to my financial well-being in things that are actually very, very common.
Right. And it's interesting, too, when you think about styles even, right? The styles change. The clothing stores, they provide new styles that if you are 10 years out, you stick out in a crowd, right? Now, again, that gets back to values. What's important to you in life? Is it important to keep up with the Joneses? We were talking about that earlier, right? To what degree is that important? And to that degree, you've got to have resources to do that, right? So style changes, technology changes. These are things that people don't think about very much.
But it really is a driving force between what you can or maybe can't accomplish financially. Exactly. I always think the big risk, and I tell clients this all the time, it's new cars. New cars make people poor. Yeah. When you're spending $500, $600, $700 a month on a car payment, and you think, we see it all the time in the mortgage business. Well, I just paid off my car, so I was thinking I'd just go trade it in. Like, what? Wait, no. Like, you just paid it off. You finally don't have a payment, and then they want to do this because they got the new house, and now they want the new car to go in the garage. Right. And it's very, like you said, it has a lot to do with that fashion, or that style of what people perceive as important.
Yeah. A big thing about going through this life economically successful is being debt-free. In other words, if you do go through a layoff and you have not squirreled away some money for a cash and emergency reserve, how are you going to get by? Except on credit cards, right? So if you've got to have a reserve, you've got to look for the future, and try not to be in the wrong kind of debt. Next time we talk, I'm going to be talking about good debt and bad debt. There's a difference, and it's huge. Debt.
That'll be interesting. I thought it was all bad.
No, not necessarily, because good debt is like debt to leverage a good investment. But if that good investment goes bad, leverage works really bad against you. Okay, so it can either be a good thing or a bad thing, depends on how it goes. But bad debt is like when you go ahead and buy something at the store because it's on sale, but you don't have quite enough money in checking, so you're going to have to go ahead and put it on a credit card, right? And if you don't pay that credit card off right away, and you go ahead and down the month after month, you're paying interest, guess what happened to the sale price?
Goes up by quite a bit.
Well, not only you've paid 2 and 3 and 4 times for that item, and
they gave you 10% off at the cash register though for getting the new card.
Again, you get back to values. What's important to you? And is it really important to you to have that item when you don't actually have the money to buy it, right? So it can kill you. Layers upon layers of debt is what's actually crushing countries at this very time. See, so economic problems, personally, corporately, nationally, debt is a problem. So, we'll talk about that next time.
Good. Well, Glenn, thanks so much for joining us. And again, they can get more information at
www.transitionplanninginc.com.
Perfect. Well, Glenn, thanks so much for joining us. And navigating major life changes is really something Glenn does well. But on top of that, you have to understand that it's not always life changes. Sometimes just changes in your lifestyle that'll make a big difference.
That's right.
Understanding, as he said, what's important to you. Hey, you know what else is probably important to you? Sleeping well. But what if the place that you're sleeping isn't the place that's the safest for your body? We'll be right back after this break. You're listening to Brashenomics.